Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by COOLBET Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a rare afternoon episode of The Lock Shop. I was tied up with some meetings for some football this weekend, but here we are, and we had to get in our golf episode because it is the Canadian Open. There's a few things going on in the world of golf. We'll get to that a little bit later on as well. Pat Gregoire is going to certainly pop by. Haas, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Well, I mean, listen, we're going to quickly get to a couple picks, and then we'll get into golf with Pat. My head's still spinning over everything that's happened for the last couple days. But as excited as I am for the Canadian Open, I've been excited for this show to make picks. I'm excited to hear what Pat's picking, frankly, because of, he did the victory lap on WST on Monday after coming through with Big Vic last week at the Memorial.
Yes.
But Dusty, you got the CFL hat on. You're going to be getting on a bird here to the peg for Friday. It's going to be gorgeous. Ticats, Bombers, and we will do a show on Friday for our picks for the weekend in the Canadian Football League, but we got a game tomorrow night. You'll be traveling tomorrow, so we had to get that in to make our first official CFL picks.
Yeah.
And quickly pick games 3 in the NBA and NHL final.
Yeah, we've got lots to get to. I mean, we're going to pick every CFL game all year long. We'll keep track of everything. Maybe we can follow up our NFL season with 60% and 57%. That'd be nice. But so we get the Lions and the Calgary Stampeders to open up the season. Really nice game to open up the year. And then Bombers Ticats, huge game on Friday night. There's just talking to both sides, Bo Levi and Zach. Like, people are excited for this game. I cannot wait to call it. But all right, let's get into this. The CFL game, first one of the year here, Huss. I'm actually going to be on the BC Lions. I said earlier in the week that number was at 3.5, and I liked it then, and it hasn't moved. It's still sitting at 3.5, right? So I'm going to get on the BC Lions here, take the hook at 3.5. Look, I know they don't have Nathan Rourke anymore. I understand that, but Vernon Adams Jr., there's a huge opportunity here for V, and he looked good a lot of the time last year for the BC Lions. Mm-hmm. They'll miss Brian Burnham because he's Brian Burnham, but they won't miss Brian Burnham as you should miss Brian Burnham. They won't miss him as much because they've got Keon Hatcher, Lucky Whitehead, and Dominic Grimes. I mean, 1, 2, 3 is right up there with what Winnipeg's bringing to the table as well. So I like the way that the BC Lions have developed over the last few years. The fact that they're going to get 3.5 on the road here. I'm actually going to take the over. The total's at 50.5 right now, right? I'm gonna see some. I want to see some fireworks on the opening night of the season. So I'm going to go over 50.5 and take the BC Lions plus 3.5 points, buddy.
This was a really tough pick to me. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is what the entire season's going to be like. But listen, you always know, kind of take it easy in the first couple of weeks. We always look back 2 weeks into the season going, can you believe how different it is what we expected? But I do expect a good game here. I like Calgary to win this game at home on the money line. But I had a real tough time laying the points. And I don't know, I'm not as high on BC as maybe some other people is. So I'm taking the Calgary money line, just FYI, if you want to stick that in a parlay or whatever. But I actually went to the total as well. And I'm going to go on the other side. I was surprised that this number was as high as it was. And it is way higher. And I'm just looking at the totals for the other games. You got 47 in the Winnipeg game. And then 43.5 Ottawa, Montreal, 45.5 in Saskatchewan, Edmonton. Listen, I can understand, with these teams and their backgrounds of why we would have the highest total. But listen, this is still week 1. It's a short training camp in preseasons, although it seems long for the players. These offenses have barely played for the most part in preseason action. And I kind of think the advantage goes to the defenses a little bit, at least early on, just from execution. So the fact that this number is on the other side of 50, I'm going to lean on the under. I know it's not a fun bet to make, but I do think that there'll be some growing pains, I think, for both of these offenses. And both quarterbacks have a lot to prove. I don't expect some crazy fireworks for the first game of the season. So I'm going to look at the under 50.5 for my first spread or total pick for the game so far this year.
All right, let's work our way back. Let's go to the other game that's tomorrow, and then we'll get to the NBA game tonight. Then we're bringing Pat Gregoire to talk about golf in general, because my goodness, what a mess. Huss, are the Panthers finally going to get on the board here or what?
You know what? I mean, listen, this pick right now, Florida is a -120 favorite at home. They've been great at home so far these playoffs. Really since the Boston game, the Boston series, they've been on an absolute roll at home. And I still think that they've got more to give. Like, I mean, for all of what they did to get here, I don't think that they're going to get swept out of this series. But this is a do or die game for the Florida Panthers. I think they feed off the crowd. And I think they hopefully, if you're on the Panthers side of things, have a little bit more composure than they've had, a little bit more discipline, albeit still playing on the edge. Vegas is a steamroller right now, but I do think that the Florida Panthers have it in them to at least get off the schneid and prevent themselves from going down 3-0. And I think for the hopes of the series, that's certainly something we've seen. Hey, I was on the over 5.5 for this series right now. That's in big trouble if the Panthers don't win this game tomorrow night.
Yeah, you're right.
So give me Florida -120. Not a strong lean, but I think they can get it done, get a win, and then we'll see what happens in game 4. Where are you?
Well, I was on Florida in this series, buddy, but I think my tune has changed. I know that they had it tight heading into the third period of game 1, but then both teams sort of were like, okay, it's go time here. And what happened? I mean, Vegas was the better team in the third period of that hockey game. And then they just look faster. They look bigger. The Florida Panthers try to push them around and they don't even react, which is even worse than pushing back, right? If you're the other team, you're like, come on, man, react to me. That's going to drive them nuts. So I want to see this be a series. I like everything you said about it, but I think the layoff killed the Florida Panthers. I honestly think it did, man. And you were right about Vegas coming into this series. I mean, maybe Florida turns it around, but I do 2 guys in the goalie with Joaquin Gage, and we were kind of teeing this series up. And Gage right from the very beginning was like, 5 games, maybe. He goes, Vegas is just built different than the teams. And look, Florida beat some great teams along the way, but they all were built different than this Golden Knights team, right? And you kind of hit on that leading in. So I'm going to take a chance to get on Vegas here at plus money in this series, and I'm going to take Vegas to win game 3. So, yeah, I'm disappointed in the Florida Panthers, buddy. I really am.
Well, listen, they still haven't lost at home. And you know what they say? You're not out of it till you lose at home. And I think that, I think we'll see the best of this club. I think the crowd will be behind them. And as I say, for hockey fans' sake, I hope I'm right with a Florida money line win and, get it to 2-1. But as I say, that's not a really strong lean. By the way, if you're still holding out hope that the Panthers can continue their miracle run, win at home and get back into this and win the series, plus 415 on the series price right now for Florida, down 2-0.
All right, and what about the NBA tonight, Huss? Where are you going to go on that game?
Well, listen, I'll tease a little bit the pick at CoolBet Canada, but considering you're all lock shoppers, you'll get this one first here. I haven't changed my stance on this series, despite being incredibly impressed with the Miami Heat and the way they've been able to stay in games, come back in games, and really assert themselves in the fourth quarter. I just think that Denver's a better team. And I think that Denver's going to be really focused to regain a home advantage tonight in this game. I'm not sure we see a better number on Denver in this entire series. They were -139. I think it's -140 right now. But to me, I think they need a little bit more from a few other players. I think the Joker is as equipped as anyone to dish. And listen, I know he scored 41 last game, but they sort of let him do that, and he didn't really hit many of the other players. They've got to involve a few more guys. I think they get that done tonight, and I like the Nugs to win. You could take the -3 at -109, but I'm going to play it safe. Let's just take win. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a very, very close game, and that's why the spread scares me a little bit. But I got the Nuggets to get the win, -139.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna play it a little bit safer with the money line as well. I didn't hate it at 2.5. I see it's moved to 3 right now, but I'm gonna get with you on the money line here. Here's what had to happen. And look, Miami's been beating teams all along the way. They go into Denver and do something that hasn't been done. Now a chance for the Nuggets to make some adjustments. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, prior to the final 3 minutes when they started to collapse and almost let the Nuggets win the game, they were shooting over 50% from beyond the arc. 50%. Like, you're not going to go 50% from deep again. I just don't see that happening. They also didn't miss a shot for like the first 11 minutes of the fourth quarter as well, and they still only won that game by 3 points. So I'm going to get on Denver here, money line tonight as well. And that's the one game we got tonight, and then obviously football and hockey on Thursday. But in the mix on all of it will be the Canadian Open, and just a few storylines in the world of golf here over the last few days. I was on the air yesterday when I thought it was a joke. Like, I checked like multiple accounts. I was just like, okay, maybe this guy's just effing around. And I was like, nope, this is the case. Like, I couldn't believe, I still don't believe it, Huss. I still don't believe what's going on.
Dude, I woke up a little later than you, obviously, with your other gig. And I woke up to a couple text messages, including one from a guy that doesn't hit me up very often, and said PGA and Live merging. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
No chance. Yeah.
And then I see a tweet. Then I see a bunch of tweets. And I'm like, oh my God, what a ruse this is. Whoever's behind this is just, and putting on a masterclass. And I did check to make sure that it wasn't the 1st of April. And then found out that this was actually happening. And I'll say this, and let's get Pat in here because he's in the market right now where the Canadian Open is.
Yeah, they'll bring him in here right now.
One of the craziest days I can remember as being a sports fan, covering sports. And to be honest, this is probably the biggest sports story this year. It's, I think, certainly the biggest sports business story this year. And one, Patty, that's going to have ramifications for years and years to come. And in the short term, creates so many questions for everybody pretty much on every side of this deal.
It's insane, man. Like, it is absolutely insane. The fact that Alec Manoah gets pigeon tossed to the minors, and in Toronto radio, that was maybe like they talked about in the second hour of a lot of the shows. It was nuts. When I saw that news drop, a bunch of people sent it to me. I was expecting that large gentleman sitting on the bed, you know, that meme, the chain
with his huge wiener. Yeah.
That thing. I was assuming that's what it had to be because I'm like, there's no way this is true. This is a prank.
But you're going to click on it because it's ridiculous, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's CNBC, and I'm looking, okay, so I start digging in, and then I hit refresh on my Twitter feed, and everyone, not even just the golf folks I follow, everyone, okay, what's going on? Next thing you know, so I flip on CNBC, they're talking about it. Put it on Golf Network. I think they had a replay of the DP tour that they had, the last event, and then it cuts to, sure enough, Jay Monahan sitting with the PIF president or chair talking about the merger. And I'm like, oh my God, this is real. And immediately it goes to my head right away. I'm thinking like Rory has to feel like the biggest idiot, asshole. You know, like just thrown to the wolves. Like he was the sacrificial lamb. And you think of all the things he said about Liv, the amount of bags that he turned down about Liv. It's all about legacy, you know. And even you go back to a year ago to the date, Canadian Open last year. Jay Monahan was on the panel
this is so
talking about how terrible these folks are, and thinking about and invokes 9/11.
Co-opted all those 9/11 families, got a statement from them on it. I mean, that a lot of it is talking about money, but man, that might be the lowest part of it. And I don't know if you guys have seen this today, but he was asked about that, I believe, on the Golf Channel from Oakdale, and he stumbled through an attempt at making sense of it, but let's just say it fell very flat with anyone watching it. And I can't imagine how flat that felt with those families who legitimately should be outraged the way they were used a year ago this week.
Absolutely. And you could tell the interview that they had there at the Canadian Open. Like, let's be honest, he's not sitting at that desk and not having canned question. Like, he for sure was, was like, okay, this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And it was so clearly pointed. And that wasn't the only time that happened. It was multiple times. It was used against all these guys. Him saying, have you ever had to apologize for being on the PGA? Just awful stuff. Again, obviously a huge black mark on the game of golf, but everything aside here, one thing that we can say is that I wish we didn't get to this point, but we're finally going to get all the best players in the world playing against each other at some point and get past all the nonsense of Liv, Piff, Jay Monahan. I don't see how Monahan survives this thing. But when all the dust settles down, when they figure this garbage out, at least we have the best golfers in the world playing against each other. And I'm excited for that. But man, what a shit show to get to this point.
You know what I guarantee, guys, is that in this framework that they put together, Monahan had to know that this would go over very poorly with the majority of his constituents, and there could be a bullseye on his head. I almost guarantee you that part of that framework, which makes him the CEO,
he's the CEO of the whole thing.
But if he is forced to resign or whatever, there is a fat golden parachute of Saudi reals waiting for Jay Monahan if he's pushed out right now. Whether that happens, I mean, we will see. The one thing that's interesting about this is that this probably, in all intents and purposes, ends the Live Tour as we know it. Could be some team elements and events, and I think that there will be going forward. And I'll be honest, as much as it's been tough to get into Live because of all the baggage in and around it,
you're intrigued by a few of those formats, aren't you?
There's a bunch of, first of all, credit to them for letting players wear shorts. I still think forcing these guys in some of these conditions having to wear pants is one of the stupidest things ever. That's just my own take. But I would love to get into that sort of a team format. I think they could do it better than they set it up, to be perfectly honest. I think golf is a game, and hey, we've all bet on golf games with our buddies in a foursome. I mean, there's so many ways that you can creatively set it up. I think they sort of missed the boat on that. But a lot of what Liv started, I think actually, if done properly with all the best players, could be hugely successful. But back to your point, Pat, I mean, bottom line is moving forward in a year or two, we'll see what happens with getting the guys that left back, because that's going to be very interesting to see how that happens. Getting Brooks and Bryson and Cam Smith, and I mean, a few of the guys that really matter on that tour back in with the big boys is going to be good for golf fans. But man, what we had to go through to get here it's going to take a long time to get over it. And as we heard from Rory McIlroy today, there is still going to be some fences that might take years, hell, decades to actually legitimately be mended.
Yeah, there's no denying. I agree with you. I do think, I mean, there's no really any point of having Live Golf at this point. But I've heard some reports that maybe the Live Golf format takes place during the fall. Maybe it's a lot of those team events during the slower months. Maybe you see more team events kind of go through. Maybe it goes to a Formula One format where it's like team ping, team tight list, team tailor made, and you have a few events throughout the year that way, which I would absolutely be in. Although as a long time Range Goats GC fan, I'm crushed. I cannot believe I'll never get to see my beloved Range Goats ever go toe to toe again.
With the that Range Goats tracksuit that you wear on the weekends, that thing is going to be worth some serious money.
You guys are
I don't
missing
know
out.
what
It's
I'm
just
gonna
going to be
do.
the tailor-made Range Goats, and
Yeah.
it'll be once every 6 weeks. They'll play a team-style format, and the team won't be made of two guys we know and two guys we've never heard of. It'll be made of Rory and Ricky, and you know what I mean? Like, the potential is there for that to look pretty good. I mean, as Rory said today, that this is a deal between the PGA Tour, the DP Tour, and PIF. Like the Live Tour is essentially not involved in this. Like it's the investment fund with the DP Tour and the PGA. Like that's what this is. Though they might take a little bit here, but basically the PGA has said to that investment fund, put your money through us. Like we'll get it.
Well, and Monahan said yesterday that we are eliminating our competitor. We're eliminating the competitor. It wasn't like we're getting together with them. And a lot of people, myself included earlier on, were sort of putting this forth as a merger between PGA and Live. That's actually not what's happening. Live is done, I think, as we know it.
Yeah.
Those guys have their money. They're going to have to figure out an equitable way to come back, and how that works in this new spot to come back. Some guys will just say, hey, I'm just taking the check, I'm good. But I think, the Brooks, the Brysons, those sort of guys will want to come back. And there's going to be so much money in this new endeavor. If you're still a top player, you're going to be getting it done. But it's just another black cloud over the Canadian Open. I mean, last year at this time, it was the first Live event coming off 2 canceled years because of the goddamn pandemic. And now this happens. It is truly it's truly crazy. But as far as the Open goes, guys, I don't know how much you've been looking at this course. Like, I know a lot of people were worried that this course was going to have a real tough time standing up to the top players on the tour. You better hit it in the fairway, because the rough at this course, and that's what you need to do on a shorter course that might not be quite where maybe some of these other events have been held. I think there's going to be some big numbers on particular holes, at least, although we might still see tons of birdies on holes for guys that are able to, put themselves in a good scoring position.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to golf here, but even, hearing people that, are members or have played here multiple times and have seen what the course looks like, it is, completely different. It's still like that, the Parkside, beautiful city course where you've got the valleys, which a lot of the Toronto and outside of downtown Toronto courses have, like the high elevated tee boxes. You shoot down into the valley and then you're hitting up to elevated green. So you'll have a lot of that beauty to it. But in terms of where they're putting the pin placement, the rough, and then these do have smaller greens. Yes, it's a shorter course, but tiny greens. You put the rough fairway in there. I heard a lot of people before this week were saying they would think it's around like a 20, 21, 22 score. Some caddies I've seen say they think it might be closer to 14, 15, or 16 under, which makes things a lot more intriguing. But you nailed it, Hus. Like, there's only, I think, 3 par 5s on this course. The rest are all mostly par 4s, a few par 3s, but there's a lot of short par 4s. But it doesn't matter if you can't keep it in the fairway. You've kind of screwed yourself. So fairway certainly something that I'm going to be looking at. Fairway accuracy, wedge play, and putting. I don't think it goes to like a putting contest by any stretch of the imagination, but those are the 3 metrics that I'm looking at the most.
Sorry, Buzz. Who do you like, Patty? Who do you like this week? What's standing out for you?
So with that being said, I think, approach play is going to be huge with a lot of those par 4s, the shorter ones. And I like Shane Lowry at 22 to 1. He's a guy that has a lot of history here playing in Canadian Opens. I know it's a different course. So it's hard to kind of dive in to see like, okay, where has he played well before, or how has he played at this course? Never played, but he has back-to-back top 10 finishes at the Canadian Open, including a runner-up back in 2019. He's been in great form as of late, had a T12 at the PGA, and last week a T16. And there's not too many better players on planet Earth with a wedge in their hand. The putting certainly is concerning because he has gone through stretches where it is actually tough to watch him with a flat stick, but it started to heat up. He's posted 2 straight rounds with positive strokes gained with putting. So I like Shane Lowry, like that number as well. Tommy Fleetwood. This is, of course, a guy that just, he's got to win on the PGA Tour at some point. He's got 9 career professional wins, but he's still waiting for that elusive PGA Tour win. He's a lead ball striker. He's got great touch around the greens, and he can heat up with his putting. But where I'm looking at a lot of importance here, it goes to the storyline. This is a guy that is a DP Tour player mainly. He's on the European Tour for the most part, comes over for a lot of the big events, some of these events like this. When all that madness was going on yesterday at 4:00, they had that meeting with Jay Monahan. He was nowhere to be found. He did not care. He was not in that meeting. Media members saw him and waved him and said, "Oh, did you just get out of the meeting?" He goes, "No, I didn't go. I was just practicing." Shrugged his shoulders and went in and grabbed a bite to eat. He was at the Blue Jays game last night. This is a guy that isn't fazed by all this stuff. And say what you will about Rory going for the hat trick at the Canadian Open. And I know they're in 2 different ballparks, but a lot of these big name PGA Tour guys have a lot of shit going on in their brain right now. Tommy Fleetwood, I know this affects him, but being a European Tour player, this actually kind of helps him out.
Hey,
yeah,
you
that's
mentioned
a good way to break it down. Yeah.
Go ahead, Hus.
You said you had one more guy?
Yeah, one more guy. I mean, it's clockwork. It's Sahith Theegala, 28-1. I'm going to be riding this until he finally wins. But when you look at it, he has 7 top 5 finishes, including a T5 at the other RBC event, the RBC Heritage, which is a shorter course, which obviously he's a long hitter. He's got great irons, but he's improving in all areas, which should help out here. His recent form kind of scares me. T56, T40, and a T58. But when you look at the analytics, he's actually been striking the ball really well. It's just in some other areas in putting, which has been a bit of concern. Again, a little bit of a concern here, but again, this is a guy with him. I'm betting the number. There is no way his number should be 28-1 based off how he has been playing this season.
In this field, right? Like I would agree.
In this field,
I would agree
too.
with,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? Hey, I mean, a big part of the numbers I was going to say the same thing about Tommy Fleetwood at 25, who I'm on. We'll get to that in a minute, but Sahith. But when you've got Rory at his level, that's a 2-time defending champ, it all goes on there. If you do like Rory to win this tournament, COOLBET has the best number. You're not finding plus 600 anywhere right now. But on that note that you just mentioned about Tommy sort of being carefree and being out there, think about what Rory's going through right now. I'd be stunned if he was able to actually go and three-peat with all this happening around. And I have to admit, it was somewhat intriguing to see plus 520, I believe, beside Rory to miss the cut. Now, I'm not suggesting that he would miss it, but
man.
guys, there's a major next week. Like if he has a bad first round or he's sort of struggling a little bit, I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me if Rory has sort of an underwhelming week and is able to get the hell out of there on Saturday, get away from everything for a few days and just practice and get ready for LA starting next Thursday. So, listen, Rory, guys, and hey, he's dominated, although this is a new course. But I'm thinking long and hard about a little sprinkle on a Rory to actually miss the cut because I think there's part of him that probably wouldn't
Man, you're a
mind
savage,
missing the
Hus.
cut.
You're a savage.
Wild.
Yeah, but
That's
you're right. Part of him to be
wild,
like, yeah,
man.
screw you guys. I'm out. I'll check out. Yeah. That's a valid point. I mean, at that number, it's, and yeah, okay, maybe you convinced me. I mean, screw you guys. I'll see you at the U.S. Open. Like, maybe that's the case. You got a Greggy special?
I do, and I won't go into too deep with the other guys, Fleetwood and Lowry to make the cut, but also Ludvig Aberg. And I don't know if you guys have heard this name. Swedish, Texas Tech product. He,
Just
up
like
until this
Mahomes.
moment, was yeah, there you go. Red Raiders, baby. Up until this point, he was the #1 rated amateur in the world, but he is making his pro debut, but he's played pro tournaments. He's the 2-time Ben Hogan Award winner, which is basically the Heisman for NCAA golf. This guy is super legit. He is an elite ball striker. He is European, but he's come over here to play college. So kind of reminds me like my guy, Victor Hovland, European guy, come over here, elite ball striker, hits the ball a ton. I just really like him. So I put him to make the cut. Debating even thinking of him to make the top 20 at 20-1. I missed out. And again, of course, obviously COOLBET, we've got a lot of Nordic and Scandinavian flavor. So a lot of our Swedish friends across the pond have been hammering Aberg this week, and it's kind of changed up the price. But that's why I just added him on the Greggy Golf special. But you know what? I'll probably bet him to make the top 20 as well. It's a good story.
I like it. Yeah, I think he's plus 200. I was looking at earlier today
for top 20. I'm looking right now. That's what he's at. Yeah.
Yeah, but Fleetwood, Lowry, and Aberg, some overseas, some DP Tour flavor, plus 125 for the Greggy Golf special. And while you're here, we should mention we've also got the Lock Shop partner parlay there. We got Sahith Theegala, Tommy Fleetwood, and I'm rolling with Adam Hadwin. I think Hadwin, and it was funny, he was the first media guy to do the media yesterday, and there's always a lot with being a Canadian at this event. But I kind of have a feeling that where Hadwin is, I think he's a little bit of a sleeper on this. And listen, I know it's a lot to expect a guy to win, but he's just got such a well-rounded game. I know Corey Connors has been more consistent, probably the most elite ball striker. But I like Adam Hadwin to be hanging around on the weekend on that top 20. So we got a great number on it too. Hadwin, Fleetwood, and Theegala all would be top 20, 15-1, Patty.
I like where that number came in.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, with me already being on Theegala and Fleetwood, and then when you threw Hadwin in there with the Canadian positive vibes, he usually, I think I saw a stat, he's finished in the top 10 2 or 3 times. He's made the cut 5 of 9 times. So he always plays pretty well here. And I agree, obviously, a lot of spotlight on Corey Connors and maybe Adam Svensson, who's a young and up-and-coming name. And Hadwin kind of just always comes in, plays consistent, plays solid. So I really like this, especially the number 15-1. I thought it was going to be closer to 10-1.
Yeah, we're happy with it. There's no doubt about that. You can find that exclusives page over at COOLBET. Anything else, Patty, or you're good to go, man?
There was 2 more things. While we're on the exclusive, the one thing, I love this bet. Corey Connors to finish in the top 10 of both the Canadian and the U.S. Open, 12-1. When it comes to majors, this guy always seems to never be in the mix to win, but he always backdoors himself into a top 10 or a top 20. I think he's going to be sniffing around that for both at 12-1. It's a fun bet that lasts a couple of weeks, unless he craps the bet and doesn't finish in the top 10 this week. The other thing, we've got an awesome promotion going on. Hit that promotions tab. If you place a $20 bet on the Canadian Open, you'll get a $10 free bet for the U.S. Open next week. So $20 wager, place it. Could be an outright, could be a head-to-head bet, whatever it is. Place that $20 bet, and there's a lot you can bet on right now for the Canadian Open. You'll get a $10 bet, and maybe that's your free bet that you use to sprinkle on a long shot, and maybe you're winning big off a free bet that maybe you wouldn't have done unless you hit that promotions tab.
Most of us have probably already put a few sprinkles down on this. So yeah, you just go in. I just did it right now. Bonus code submit, bonus code given. So be another 10 to blow next week when we get down to LA. You guys are heading there tomorrow, right?
We're there Friday, so we'll be there Friday.
Oh, I guess
we're not there tomorrow. Yeah. So we'll be there Friday. We'll follow us at COOLBET Canada. Give myself, Jake, a follow as well. We'll be putting out content, following around our guy, Taylor Pendrith, of course, but also there's a couple good groups around that 12 o'clock spot. I know we're going to be following around Rory. We might have to fist fight someone to get to the front of the ropes, but kind of works out well. A lot of the groups are kind of put together. So I know we're stoked. I've been to Oakdale before. It's not in the best area of Toronto, I'll be quite honest, but apparently the course is beautiful and it's in great shape and they've really set it up nicely.
Well, enjoy it, buddy, and we'll catch up next week.
Absolutely. Take care, boys. Thanks for having me as always.
There you go.
Have
That's
fun
Pat
have
Gregoire.
fun on Friday. Have one for us when
Yeah,
when
not
we're
bad.
gallivanting around. And by the way, follow at COOLBET Canada because the guys, I'm sure, will be firing out some great stuff. And if you do like COOLBET's own Taylor Pendrith to be top Canadian, he is 9-1 right now. Got a great list for those top Canadians. Corey Connors, of course, the leader, the shortest number. Adam Hadwin, who I'm sort of keen on, is plus 550.
Right before we get into our picks here, Huss, I just want to throw. I was looking on their exclusives page here for the tournament. Head to head, any Canadian versus Rory McIlroy. Any Canadian minus 144 if they can minus 154 if they can beat Rory, who's at plus 110. So it's any Canadian finishes ahead of Rory, you win it at minus 154. Or if you think Rory's going to beat all the Canadians, you can get him at plus 110.
That's like a battle royal bet. Like that's
Yeah.
the equivalent of like at the Royal Rumble having one guy against the field. I
It's a
don't
cool
mind
one.
that.
I like
As
that.
I
That
say,
stood out.
I'm really interested to see what we get from Rory this week because it wouldn't surprise me if he maybe wasn't. And listen, he's been up and downs, but he's still like, even when he's not on, he's still top 10s, top 5s, and he's won this tournament twice. But that is a real interesting one. Hey, you know what? Just while we're on this, because I should mention that I brought that up. Here's your odds for the top Canadians. Connors is plus 240. Hadwin's plus 550. Nick Taylor and Adam Svensson. And Svensson's had a great year. Plus 650. Mac Hughes, who had a lot of interesting tweets yesterday when everything was blowing up. 8-1. And COOLBET's guy Taylor Pendrith, 9-1. And our guy here in the peg, DP Tour player Aaron Cockrell from Winnipeg, is at 14-1. And I will get to a couple Cockrell related bets in a second. But Dusty, let's roll. Why don't you start it off? You're on your guy Hatton, who, hey, listen, it was Pat Cantlay that screwed us last week.
Yes,
because
it was.
Hatton did his job, got in there, and man, he's good with such iron play. I'm not surprised that we've got a short number on him. Wouldn't it all surprise me to see him raising the trophy?
Yeah, Pat Cantlay straight on the shit list. This is Patty with his Vic Hovland pick, right? Like you ride it until you hit it, and then you hit it. And I'm gonna do that with Hatton here. He's at 12-1. You know, he doesn't have many off weeks. Like it's just a matter of putting it all together for a week. He has been all around it. He's got 2 top 5s mixed in with 5 straight top 20s. He was at T4 at Bay Hill, second at TPC Sawgrass, and these are events with a deeper field than the one that we're looking at right here. Like it's just a matter of time until Hatton tracks down one of these things. You can get him at 12-1. You know, there's Rory, and then Hatton is second on the odds right now, I do believe, at 12-1. But I mean, the guy, he's so steady. So I'm going to get on Hatton at 12-1. I'll follow up what Patty said about Shane Lowry at 22-1. You know, as far as ball striking goes, and you mentioned the rough and how difficult it's going to be. I'm not sure how many guys. Well, according to the stats, there's only 14 guys who are better in proximity to the hole than Shane Lowry, and he's one of the best on the tour, tee to green. I mean, this is a guy who usually keeps things pretty steady here. So I'm going to get on Shane Lowry at 22-1, and then I'm going to get on Mitchell. I know anytime I get on Mitchell, you kind of get pretty excited about Mitchell. So he's got 6 top 25s this year. He's one of the best off the tee players on the planet. He's only missed the cut 3 times in his last 18. And I don't know how much you believe in the old bent grass theory, right? Like if he's good on the bent grass, but he is. He's made 7 straight cuts at courses on bent grass, including last year's RBC Canadian Open at St. George's where he finished 7th. So, you know, this is a course that has the style of grass that he plays very good on. So he's also 17th in total strokes gained over the last 50 rounds over the field on bent grass venues. So, I mean, he's been excellent on this type of grass. So it kind of suits him nicely. He's been shit on Sundays, his last few events. I think he had a 79, a 75 before that. But if he eliminates some of those Sundays, he hasn't been playing too poorly as of late. So it's 40-1, but I'm going to get on Mitchell here to wrap up my 3 picks.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start it off. And I didn't really go with any. The shortest number I'm going to jump on is Justin Rose. But I mean, both with Rose and Tommy, I thought considering the field, we're getting really good numbers. I kind of thought both of those guys might be in the mid to high teens. Listen, Rose has been really consistent. I mean, he's had an awesome year. In his last 4 tournaments, his worst result has been top 25 at the RBC Heritage. But he was 16th at the Masters. He was 9th at the PGA Championship, and he was 12th at Colonial. He's coming in off a week off. He's got he's got the game. Apparently, talking to one of our guests yesterday, I can't remember who said this, but working with a new driver that he apparently has just been absolutely striping it. So I think Justin Rose is poised to maybe take advantage of a little bit of a weaker field if Rory doesn't have a great week or his mind isn't in it, and certainly could be a threat to win it. And I won't spend too much time on Tommy Fleetwood, but I think it was Feinberg yesterday that mentioned, hey, Tommy hasn't won in the United States on the PGA Tour, but he's won everywhere else in the world. And hey, this isn't the United States. This is Canada. We talked about how he's preparing for it right now. So why the heck not Tommy Fleetwood? Great ball striker, is a guy that can get on a roll, that's been in contention here before. So 25-1. And my sleeper pick that I really do like is this Adam Maronk. This is a Polish dude that has been playing more on the DP Tour, but has played here in Canada. On the PGA Tour. Was 40th at the PGA. Was tied for 14th at the Honda Classic, and was a top 50 at the Genesis. But what I think is even more important is his recent form. As I said, played very well at the PGA, then went to the KLM Open and was 5th. And before that, earlier in May, won the DS Automobiles Italian Open at first. He is a bomber. He has played a lot here in North America. I mean, he went to NCAA schools at East Tennessee State. His game is good. This could be sort of a breakout spot for a player like that. So I jumped on him at 40-1. Again, a couple of longer numbers, but I think this is the sort of tournament that if it doesn't go to the chalk favorite and Rory McIlroy, there's some real opportunity to get some good value on someone. And if Rory wins, good for him. But as I said, even with the best number around at 6-1, it's still 6-1 on a PGA tournament with a full field. I did have a couple other picks. I do like Tommy Fleetwood top 10 at plus 200. So 2-1 on that. I'm really keen on Tommy being right there, potentially in that final group battling for the trophy. So I think at plus 200, it's pretty good. And then I got to give a shout out to Aaron Cockrell. Dusty, I don't know if you saw yesterday, Feinberg was talking to me.
I did see that. Yeah.
Just hilarious. He comes by and he, I guess, had recognized my voice through the thing that Jeff was on, popped in and said hi. And he's a fan. We're all big fans of his. And he's had an incredible year on the DP Tour. Last year, he just had some conditional privileges, earned full membership this year, has a second, has a third so far, and has been really consistent. He played in this tournament last year, albeit in a different course. I think he's far more prepared to be in the mix on the weekend. So all you Winnipeggers that want to ride with Aaron Cockrell, here are a couple props and a couple things that I've got in. He got added to the make the cut. So if you just want to make a bet for him to play the weekend, he's minus 143. He's the last guy listed on the to make the cut options. I love him to get into the top 20. I mean, I love the fact that it's plus 450.
Yeah.
So whether it happens or not, we'll see. But he's absolutely capable of having a run like that, considering what he's done on the DP Tour. So plus 450 for Cockrell in the top 20. And you know what? Listen, there's a lot of great Canadians. I think there's 21 total in this field. So to be top Canadian would be tough, but plus 1,400, 14-1 on Aaron Cockrell. I think $20 would pay 300. So I've got a little sprinkle on that as well. And I did add AC into one of our exclusives, because as I mentioned, we've got the golf, we've got the Lock Shop Partner Parlay, which is Hadwin, Thigala, and Fleetwood, all to finish top 20. And then we did a WST exclusive for the Winnipeg Sports Talk folks to have Aaron Cockrell in it. And we went with 3 Canadians. We took Adam Hadwin, we took Aaron Cockrell, and we took Taylor Pendrith, and had all 3 of those guys to make the cut. And that is plus 270 right now. So if you want to jump on that, it's all in the golf exclusives at the bottom of that page.
Man, we've got you covered this week, don't we, Huss?
Yep. Hey, it's the Canadian Open. We got to step up for our national championship.
Yeah. We will have an episode on Friday, probably around usual time, setting up the rest of the weekend in the Canadian Football League and whatever we've got on the schedule for NHL and NBA action as well. But best of luck. Make sure you get all those Canadian Open bets in. And if you go to COOLBET and click on that exclusives link, there's a ton of stuff for the Canadian Open. So give yourself some time and kind of dive into that.
Yeah, the everything that we've just talked about today, including the Lock Shop and the Winnipeg Sports Talk exclusives for the Canadian Open, are in the golf boosted odds section. And we've already put together a partner parlay for the weekend in the Canadian Football League. And we'll talk about this on Friday. But if you missed the show then, it's Bombers, Red Blacks, and Elks all to win. Boosted to plus 540, which is a nice number. We figured we wouldn't include... To be honest, I didn't have a good enough feel on the opening game to do it. And you're on the over, I'm on the under. Yeah. So we just sat that one down. So you'll have until kickoff on Friday to bet that. We'll talk more about that and the rest of those CFL games on Friday. But in the meantime, if you want to jump on it before potentially the line moves, it's up right now. That is under the Lock Shop Partner Parlay in the exclusives.
Talk to you Friday, buddy.
See you in the peg.